Still thinking about morality. I'm thinking about it down at Dartington where I work, and the college I work at is it's located right now in the grounds of it's an estate, a private estate, I guess, or it's an estate that's run by a trust. There's a lot of old buildings here, including this ruined church, just a tower left standing, and this old churchyard. It's quite an interesting thing to have in college grounds, but there you go. Anyway, morality. I suppose one of the things that I'm finding about this discussion about morality, or the discussion I'm having with myself about morality, and my thinking about it, is its connection to understandings of free will. Because what certainly some of the conversations and the readings I've been doing about morality as it relates to empathy and altruism and selflessness, selfless acts, acts which, at least on the face of it, don't seem to offer any kind of selfish motivation, or don't seem to be driven by selfish motivations. And you know, I know it could be argued that there's always a hidden motive behind these things, but let's assume that there isn't. Then selflessness, how does it gain validity? And it seems to me that the various explanations for it, whatever explanation you give for it, diminishes it in some way. I mean, I know there are explanations for altruism which ground it ultimately in evolution and the seeking of adaptive advantage. You know, whether it's an accurate firing or whether it's a misfiring or a deployment of something which is originally adapted for a different purpose, a kind of exaptation of the sense of self-preservation being mobilised for the preservation of someone else. Sort of, whichever way you frame it, if you couch it in, I'll walk around this corner, see if the wind drops a bit. Whichever way you frame it, any kind of reference to it being as part of an evolutionary narrative, as some kind of inbuilt piece of code that we all carry around with us for somehow being selfless, it seems to diminish it to me. For the same reason, I think, that free will is diminished, or appears diminished. I don't think it is diminished. Free will appears diminished when you start considering it in terms of contemporary neuroscience, or just in terms of a more deterministic understanding of the universe. We don't like the idea that our will is anything other than this kind of weird magical thing that we summon and command, and that all decisions begin and end with us. We kind of like that idea, and I think we like morality for the same reason. If morality feels kind of contaminated by evolutionary origins, or even by kind of educational origins, anything that's deterministic about our moral choices, as I say, it seems to lessen its value, or feels as if it lessens its value. You know, even if I was to say that, you know, it's not the result of some kind of evolutionary process. It's not the exactive use of a mechanism for gaining individual advantage. If I was to say that it's entirely a learned response, it's entirely something that developed rationally by being exposed to rational ideas and by being educated in a certain way, then it becomes a nurture issue. Then it's all down to nurture. It doesn't change it. You know, whether you locate it within nature or in nurture, it feels you don't feel as if you possess it. You feel as if it's just an inevitability. And I think we like to have responsibility for our morality in the same way that we like to have responsibility for our will. And in some ways, the kind of theological solution, which is to place morality in the hands of an almighty, of an absolute being outside of space and time and human frailty, at least I think partially solves that problem, or appears to solve the problem. You know, to the extent that most deities, certainly the Judeo-Christian God, is that being of which we are a fragment. You know what I mean? We're made in His image, as the saying goes. And God is man writ large, to put it the other way around. There's a sense that I think if you create a being like that is the first cause, that is the primum mobile, that has those kind of qualities of being the source of action, the source of moral choice, and then link yourself to that source of moral choice via this kind of holographic projection, then I think you kind of regain ownership of moral choice, even in that weird sort of abstract way, by projecting your ego onto the universe and calling it a god, or projecting your will onto the universe and calling it God. Let's put it that way. It's still romantic, and it still doesn't really qualify as a decent theory. But I think psychologically it's appealing. I think the appeal of a moral sense being something that we would take ownership of and have as sitting outside of nature, it's appealing for the same reason that we like our will to be something that we have ownership of, and is similarly outside of causality and outside of natural process.